Forgive me for standing, but I don't sit and talk easily. First of all, I would like to thank Felipe Redicetti and the organisers here for providing me with this opportunity to speak with you. And if I could signal a change on the PowerPoint. I want to talk to you on three matters today. Why music? Why music education? And how we might begin to tackle some of the difficulties in developing music. Music is a fundamental human need. Those of you who work in psychology are probably well aware of Maslow's hierarchy of human needs, and I can see some nods around the room. In Maslow's hierarchy, he places creativity, culture, and aesthetic issues at the very top of that hierarchy. They come after issues of safety, of basic sustenance, of love have been achieved. I'd like to challenge that. I think music and the arts are at the very basic level of human need, and everything builds from that. A story to illustrate. In 1940, Olivier Messiaen, the French composer, was arrested, transported to Germany, and interred in a concentration camp. In that camp were also a clarinetist, a violinist, and a viola player. For those musicians, he wrote the work that became the Quartet for the End of Time. On the 15th of January, 1941, that work was performed in front of 5,000 prisoners and guards in that camp. Music was so important in an environment that offered the majority of people there no safety, very little food and sustenance, not a great deal of love or security. But music was something so fundamentally important that it brought that group of people together. And when we move to today, we see many, many projects throughout the world where similar things are occurring, where young people, people of all ages in communities, are living in extraordinarily poor circumstances, economically, socially. Yet music is still central to every one of those cultures. I suggest from that music is a basic human right. And we see that from the research that shows the way in which music impacts health and well-being, the ways in which, through studies in neuroscience, we are seeing that music shapes people's ways of thinking. And we also see the power of music in bringing groups together. Finally, music both makes us distinctive, as we all have our different musics, but it also has huge potential to unite us. In the 21st century, the sorts of jobs that are beginning to be developed are not jobs where repetitive skill is needed. They are jobs that require creativity, imagination, the capacity to communicate effectively. I suggest that music and the arts are fundamental to developing young people's creativity, their imagination, their capacity to work collaboratively and cooperatively, their capacity to communicate. It is a moral imperative that we have music in schools. When we go into the research, there is a phenomenon of communicative musicality. This looks at the very basic communication that occurs between caregiver and infant. Music is one of the capacity to hear and engage with music is one of the first of the human capacities to develop in the womb. It is also one of the last capacities at death. Music carries us through a lifespan, and we can see how important it is in the lives of very young children. Children bring to school an enormous amount of musical understanding. It may not be formal, they may not know how to read music notation, they may not know how to play an instrument with great skill, but they come with a huge listening experience, a capacity to engage with music, a repertoire of song, what we call emergent communicative musicality. Thank you. Music and art making in general address the 5 psychosocial needs of joint music making. Through music, we can establish human mutuality, the capacity to engage with another person. Through music, we also establish the capacity to belong with others, to be part of groups. Through music, we are able to find and make meaning and to communicate meaning. Music provides young people with an avenue for developing competence, skills that carry them through life, and also the capacity to elaborate, to invent. All of these are very powerful ways of making us more human. And you can see there I have summarised the ways in which music making assists in the lives of children and young people. I want to move now to the global agenda, and my colleague has spoken about this a little bit already in terms of the UNESCO agenda. I want to focus on the Soul agenda, which was developed in 2010 as an agenda for arts education. There are 3 goals in the Soul agenda. The first one is that every child everywhere in the world should have access to arts education in the way in which education is renewed. The second goal that I've highlighted in red there emphasises that education must be of high quality, not just any old music, but high quality engagement with music regardless of the genre. And the final of the goals emphasises the ways in which the arts and music are capable of effecting social and cultural change. Music is an extraordinarily powerful vehicle for making change in the worlds of children, young people, people of all ages. And we see that in the various projects where music is being used within prisons, within communities who are suffering enormous difficulties as a means of beginning to affect social change. So in effect, music education for all, and I'll just highlight this photograph was taken at the 2010 ISME World Conference. Every one of those young dancers has hearing impairment, profound hearing impairment. Yet they performed with us to music, and music was such a powerful way of developing these young people. I suspect that we face collectively a number of challenges, but each of these gives us an opportunity. Any endeavour to implement the law must be multifaceted. No single solution will effectively implement that law. We need to think about the impacts for teacher education. We need to think about the involvement of generalist classroom teachers as well as specialist music teachers. We need to think about the ways in which we might link formal learning of music in schools with music as it occurs in informal and non-formal communities. We need to think about engaging parents in their children's music making and in the life of schools. And we also, importantly, need to identify the ways in which music makes a difference in the academic, cultural and social climate of schools. Having music in a school changes a school. It creates a sense of community in a way not open to every other subject. I would like to finish just with a small amount about UNESCO, which was established, about ISME, which was established by UNESCO in 1953. ISME represents in excess of 5 million music educators across the globe and has many strategic alliances. There are a number of ways in which ISME helps to connect music educators to communicate the positive stories and research findings of music, to assist music educators to collaborate across national and international boundaries, and to also celebrate the ways in which music effects change. The mission of ISME is to serve to build and maintain a worldwide community of music educators. Thank you. Through the work of organisations such as ISME and its Brazilian affiliate ABEM, we are striving to make a difference, and difference can be made at the level of every individual. Small things can effect big changes. I emphasise there a number of the connections that ISME brings and the possibilities of connection into ABEM and into Brazil. And finally, as another aspect of ISME, we have a number of world conferences, regional conferences and journals. And I'm very pleased to be able to say that in 2014, ISME will have its first world conference in Brazil, in Latin America. And I hope as many of you as possible will join us in Porto Alegre in July next year. Thank you.